Welcome to Permission to Shine, the space where high-achieving women like you come to peel back the layers, overcome what's been holding you back, and rise into your most authentic, powerful self. I'm your host, Sherisse Bisram, inner power activation leader and intuitive healer, and a woman who knows what it means to look like she's thriving on the outside, also while feeling disconnected on the inside. This podcast is here to remind you, you didn't come here to just perform, you came here to lead with your soul. Your obstacles, they're invitations to expand. And your power, it was never outside of you. It's been waiting within you all along. Each week we'll dive into honest conversations, healing insight and soul-led strategies to help you stop self-sabotaging, reclaim your light and lead your life, your business and your relationships from deep-rooted truth. So if you're ready to rise with grace, softness and fire, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Hello, my loves. How are you doing? It has been one crazy week, and I actually realized I didn't post an episode last week, but I really feel like sometimes we need space, and I like to honor how I feel, and I always love to show up, but equally, there's so many episodes I've got now. It's nice to give you the chance to catch up on other episodes and all the things. But anyway, that's not what I wanted to speak about. What I really wanted to talk about is what so many people are in right now. And it is that growth, expansion, discomfort, spiral, cycle, stickiness, right? And I think that the full moon we just had in Sagittarius, and it doesn't matter when you're listening to this because it will feel relevant anyway, it was really asking us to look at where we've been staying stagnant and where we've been looping the same patterns and ideas and where we want to get to. So I always talk about how Sagittarius is the archer and it pulls you back. You have to look at the old patterns and limiting beliefs, the old stories you've been telling yourself in order to be able to launch forward, right? And that all is really uncomfortable stuff. Staying the same is uncomfortable. Growing is uncomfortable. And I bet you're asking me now, well, when does it get comfortable? And I'll be honest, I don't know if comfortable is the right word, but familiar is probably the best word for it. But equally, I think when you feel comfortable in a space, you're not growing. You're just kind of looping and staying a bit stagnant. Now, I'm not saying it always has to feel uncomfortable in every situation, but I believe in the polarity. And you've probably heard me talk about this all of the time, that in order to feel real depth of beauty and incredible excitement and opportunity, we have to also feel the discomfort, the pain, the heartache, the loss. They don't come one without the other. And I think so many of us are searching for happiness, fulfillment, joy, and all those things that aren't something that is sustainable. It's something that's always going to fleet in and out because we have to live a full life, you know? If a roller coaster just went all the way up and then stayed on that level the whole way, that'd be a really boring roller coaster, right? It's the same with your life. And for some reason, this analogy keeps coming forward to me over this full moon period, and I'm going to share it with you. So I have the Moonology cards by Yasmin Boland, and one of the cards I keep pulling is the North Node, and the little sort of saying on the bottom is, in order to see new horizons, we have to lose track of the shore. And that for me is the epitome of this Sagittarius energy. It's like we don't know what the next step is. We don't know what it looks like. We don't even know what it feels like. But what we know is we can't keep doing what we've always done because we'll keep getting the same results over and over again. And then that very saying actually reminds me of Moana. Because obviously the lyrics are, there's a line where the sky meets the sea, it calls me, and no one knows how far I'll go, you know? But if I yeah, if I go now, there's no telling just how far I'll go. I mean, obviously I might be getting the words wrong, but essentially what she's saying is like her whole life she's been called to the ocean to see more, to reach more, but her family want to keep her safe until the point where the island itself is decaying and someone has to go and save them, right? Now, obviously, that's very far-fetched in terms of your own life, but is it? Because really, if you think about it, if you've seen Moana, obviously you'll be seeing the imagery here, but if you haven't, imagine this tiny little beautiful island in the middle of the ocean, and then all of a sudden this like the plants are dying, the crops aren't growing, it's like, gosh, everything is decaying. And that for me is an example of depression, of self-sabotage, of our limiting beliefs, our childhood patterns and wounds that come to the surface, and they eat away at us, right? And so you're trying to stay where you are, where you can control, where you know it's comfortable, but actually, in order for you to get to the next step or where it is you're supposed to get to in your life or where you desire to be, you have to let go of that old cycle. You have to step off of it and you have to jump with your whole body all into the whatever the next phase is and trust that you're supposed to go there. And with the forming workshop that I did, I asked the ladies, I'm like, what are you afraid of to grow into? The next step, it feels scary. What is that? Like if you had that thing that you wanted, what are you afraid of? And a lot of women, it's like being seen, being visible, being understood, being respected, being appreciated. It's all of those feelings. But in order for us to feel that externally from whatever it is we're diving into, whether that's a new friendship group, a new relationship, a new career path, we have to give it to us first because that self-certainty is the pinnacle of everything in your life. Like, I feel like I've been shown this so clearly over these few weeks myself. It's like, we can't control how anyone else thinks or feels. All we can ever control is how we feel about ourselves. And one thing about me is I will love hard and fully and openly with everyone in my life, everyone that I care about, everyone that's in my circles right now. But if you ask me to do something I'm not comfortable with, or if you push me to a point where I have to question my own values for myself, I'm going to choose me. 100% I'm going to choose me. And a really beautiful space that I've been in is like, can two things be true? So again, we're talking about growth and expansion. Can I put myself as a priority and still keep my heart open for more opportunities, for more experiences, for things to look different than the way that I'd pictured them to be? And the thing about me is I I love a bit of control. I love it, and that is my toxic trait because I'm the eldest daughter. I was the one that looked after the family. I had to conflict resolute, I had to problem solve, I had to fix. And so it's so easy for me to fall into that. It's so easy for me to abandon myself and save everyone else in the water. But actually, I'm going to do a better job if I am outside of the water looking in to see who actually needs my help and who doesn't. Because what will happen is you might dive in to try and save someone that can already swim, right? And actually, sometimes, which I talk about with people pleasing a lot, is that if you dive in to save that person, they won't learn how to swim. And that in itself is a really big wake up call because, I speak to so many mums about this as well with their kids. It's like we want to help and we want to control and we want to support and we want to do all those beautiful things because we know we can. But at the same time, we sometimes enable bad behavior for it. And so, a really powerful way of us being able to be of service is to tend to our own needs first and to actually not overly help. And that's hard. I know it's hard. I know some of you are thinking, wow, that's selfish. But the word selfish isn't a bad word. I think we make it out to be this really, I guess, egotistical word, but it's really not. And I think that I'm no good to anyone when my cup's empty. I can't think straight and my emotions lead over my logic. And I have a really good dynamic with, my mind and my soul, I guess. So I can speak from my heart and my soul and also from my logical mind. But when I'm exhausted, when I'm overwhelmed and all those things, I can't. And I'm human, right? And I acknowledge that for myself. And so for me, in those situations, I have to come back to myself, fill my cup up, and then give. right? And this is the thing about growth is that it's going to challenge that pattern. So yes, it's great to have the tools, and yes, it's great to know yourself, and yes, it's paramount that you do not abandon your own needs, but evidently you are going to feel stretched at that time because it's something you haven't done before, or you have, but not to this capacity. And this is why growth feels so uncomfortable because, well, it's part of the journey, right? And I think, if you are someone that is gripping really tightly onto what is right now, say that it feels like everything in your life's falling apart and you're squeezing so tightly onto what it is you can control, my advice is to let go. Because a lot of the times we make things out worse in our own head, like we're actually making it a bigger problem than it needs to be, or we're preempting it, or we're like future panning chaos. So many of us do that. There's actually a really funny episode of I don't know if you know Brene Brown. She is the queen of vulnerability. So she talks about yeah, that's like her thing as a I think she's a psychologist, I want to say that. And she's written loads of papers and books. I love her. She's amazing. But she had an interview with Oprah Winfrey, and she was talking about how the day of the interview, she was flying over to see her. And she said to her husband, like, these are where the paperwork is. This is like where, if anything happens to me, this is where that'll be. And the husband's like, what are you talking about? She's like, well, clearly this is too good to be true. So I'm probably going to die. Like, so she's like preempting the worst case scenario because she can't get over the fact that that might actually be an amazing thing and it might all be okay. But how many of us do that anyway? And I'm talking about like, things could be going wrong in your life as well. It could be one thing after the other. And because things have been going wrong and one thing after the other, you then believe that another bad thing's going to happen and another bad thing. And guess what? You're manifesting it anyway, right? But what if it worked out better than you thought? That's something to entertain, right? And that was the thing about Sagittarius energy. It's like the big picture. Zoom out, see your life. And like I said, I know I keep using astrology as an example, and you don't have to be using astrology as an example. You can just be using the fact that we tunnel vision ourselves all of the time. We're zoomed in on the problem. But when you think about the problem, guess what? More problems appear. It's the black coffee theory. I talk about this all the time, like if someone's asking you what it is you want and you're telling them what you don't want, lo and behold, you're going to get what you don't want. And I'll give you a better example of this. So, for example, if it's a hot sunny day and you're going to get an ice cream and someone says to you, oh, what flavour do you want? Strawberry, chocolate, banana. And you're like, oh, anything but black coffee. Right. And then you go out for lunch and like they're asking you, do you want pasta, salad, burger? What do you want? Anything but a black coffee. Right. And then you go to a coffee shop. What would you like? Oh, I don't know, anything but a black coffee. You're going to end up with a black coffee because all you've said for the last day or so, or months, years, weeks, whatever it is black coffee. So you're going to end up with it, right? And you know what's funny? The last time I used that analogy, I actually ended up drinking a black coffee because obviously I'd said it so many times, like even I manifested it. So this is the power of your words and your thoughts and your beliefs, right? And it's like when we're in that seat of discomfort and that yeah, that we're in the dark night of the growth period, right? I always talk about how we go through seasons and in the winter and you've planted your new seed to grow. That seed is in absolute darkness. It doesn't know it's going to reach the light. It doesn't know a new beginning is just about to happen because all it can see and feel is darkness. And that's exactly the beauty of growth. It's that unknown, like that, like I said, that edge of the sea, that line, how people probably thought Christopher Columbus probably thought the edge of the earth, was flat. And then he finds, I don't know, what does he find? America? Was he Spanish? I can't remember now. All I remember is a colonizer jokes. It's not really a joke though, is it? But you know what I mean? It's like we are so attached to feeling safe that we don't realize the safety that we are attached to is something that's probably not serving us anymore. And in that, it is literally an attachment to what we know, an old cycle, self-sabotage, limiting beliefs, and a version of ourselves that we are outgrowing. And it's a bit like trying to fit your feet in an old pair of trainers because you really loved them, but every time you wear them, they hurt. But you're so afraid to get a new pair of trainers in case they rub that you keep wearing the old ones. I feel like I've just smashed that analogy, by the way. Even now I've said it, I'm like, that was a really good analogy. And that's exactly what this is, isn't it? There's no, you can't fit your foot in a shoe that you've outgrown. Like you need to wear the new pair. And I know that they might rub. I know, I get it. But if you don't wear them in, they're not going to feel comfortable. It's the same with like voyaging to unknown seas and territories and oceans. It's like you're only going to figure out how to survive in that territory until you get to the edge of the shore, at the edge of the sea line where you have to place your sail. I don't know what the right word is. I'm not a sailor, but you know, put your thing up, your so yeah, your sail and take the anchor off and just go, you know, allow the wind to take you. It's like we can stay stuck or we can choose to grow, and either way it feels uncomfortable. So wouldn't you rather fail forwards than keep falling back into the same hole that you've dug over and over again? You know, and that hole gets deeper every time. You know, it was once a little pothole, and now it's like a gaping well. And every time you fall, it hurts because, you know, you're not choosing to lean forward into smaller holes. This is how we find our way, you know, failing forwards. So I hope that this gives you something to think about. And actually, what I'd love for you to do now is to just sit with, you know, that question for yourself. You know, where right now am I choosing to stay exactly where I am? And what does growth and expansion look like for me right now? You know, is that a relationship? Is that a job? Is that launching something? Is that getting new friends? You know, like you've outgrown the ones that don't serve you, and so you need to go in new social circles. What is that next step? What are you afraid of taking an action in that direction? Yeah, you might go into a room where you don't know anyone, and that's scary. You're scared of being seen by new people or people not knowing who you are. But actually, what if you meet a real soul sister and you're like, oh my gosh, like we just click straight away and she's so cool and I needed that. Or it's not even about like, you know, when I did that workshop, I had like these really incredible women just come together and they never knew each other and they were just like, no, I really needed a space where people just see each other and there's no judgment. So you're there. Um, you know, it's yeah. What does that look like for you? And then I want you to think about if everything did work out in the most beautiful way, how would that actually feel? How would you feel in yourself? Because again, emotions are fleeting, they don't last forever. But if you can recalibrate to a new baseline of like, okay, where I'm at right now feels scary, hard, overwhelming, and I can't breathe almost with how much I've got on my plate. But I know that the best possible outcome for me on the other side of this is that I finally feel calmer in myself. So it's not like joy and excitement and everything working out. It's like I just feel calmer. I can just regulate myself more easier. I can make better choices that don't involve me sabotaging myself, you know? And so I'd love to know if this resonated with you. As always, like, you know, drop me a message if you've listened, if something came up for you, you can write in the comments and just yeah, let me know because I really do feel like so many people are in this phase right now. And I think it is because we've got massive astrology happening and things that planets that like outer planets have shifted into signs that they've never been in before. And it's like we're all in a new phase and we're being asked by the universe like are you going to stay the same or are you going to grow and evolve and be the best version of yourself? Because if it's that, amazing things will come. And if it's not, you're going to be watching everyone else do these amazing things thinking, why is this not happening to me? And what I absolutely do not want you to do is, fall in that loop of comparison and all those things. I want you to be the one that's feeling in yourself like, this is uncomfortable. I'm leaning forward. I don't know the answers, but I trust that I'm going to get to where I want to be because every day I'm choosing something that's benefiting me or supporting me or something along those lines. So, yes, I have written a blog about this as well that will be linked in the show notes. And currently, I'm thinking about a 4 week offer for women to come together and to really work through these things that have kept us stuck. I want it to be about remembering who you truly are and coming to that baseline of a real deep empowerment so that when life does throw things at you, you know that you can handle it. It's about stepping out of the grey and the mundane that you've built for yourself to protect yourself and really allowing yourself to live in colour again. So if that feels like something you want to know more about, obviously drop me a DM. And if you're not following me on social media already, please do, because there's going to be a lot more of that coming up in the next few weeks. But I'm sending you so much love and, bravery. Do the uncomfortable thing. Do the thing that involves you losing track of the shore, the thing that requires you to wear the new shoes in, and to just trust that what's meant for you won't pass you by unless you don't lean forward and jump in, right? So I'm sending you lots of love. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Please do like, follow and share with a woman that you know needs to hear these words today. The more women that get to listen, the more impact and change and transformation I get to make into this world, and the light in you shines on others. So sharing that forward is absolutely the mission of this. This is how we all give and get and receive the permission to fully shine. I also have some really incredible things happening this year. I'm hosting the second She Rises event in April. So if you want to find out more about that, click the link in the description. And I'm now newly launching my first ever group program that is called Unforgettable. And it's taken you from performing visibility to embodied authority. So whether that's host your own podcast or being on stage or being the leader of your field, and you're ready to fully embody this version of you that has this dream and ambition, that the limiting beliefs, the childhood experiences, the generational trauma that has stopped you and prevented you from fully stepping into who you came here to be. This is the space where we get to write a new story, a new chapter in your life. And I'm so excited to hold that space for you. And as always, if you're looking for one-to-one guidance and support, drop me a message, because there's always spaces available for you. I'm sending you so much love.